Whitley Strieber, and you're listening to My Alien Life.
And I was taking a walk with my husband one day and our Newfoundland dog, and all of a sudden a man by the name of Keith came to me and said, I heard it, and then I heard he'll be in your husband's office on Monday. He needs to speak to him. I asked my husband, I said, do you know a Keith at work? And he said, yeah, I know two of them. And I said, well, I just got a message. One of them's going to come and speak to you. And so that was like on a Friday or Saturday. Monday, my husband came home from work, set his lunchbox down. He's like, you're never going to believe this. He's like, well, actually, probably will. But he's like, when you told me about Keith, but it was actually Keith that retired, that left. That Keith came back on Monday to see my husband. Out of all the people in the company, came back to see my husband and tell my husband that he was dying of leukemia.
My Alien Life is recorded high atop the Northern Rocky Mountains and is heard all over the world, and you can listen everywhere fine podcasts are found. My website is www.myalienlifepodcast.com. There you'll find links to every episode, stories, photos, and much more. I'm your host, Cam Logan. This is My Alien Life, and the podcast starts right now.
My Alien Life Podcast.
Three, two.
Imagine a world where psychic abilities and precognition are commonplace and used by everyone. As a child, that is exactly what Stephanie thought her world was like. She thought her natural extraordinary abilities were shared by everyone. And we're going to talk about that and more. It's coming right up on My Alien Life. Let me just say, when I was about 7 or 8 years old, different things happened in my life, and we're pretty close to the same age. So I don't think it's an accident that we have met, because I find so many people who come to me and we talk and we find common ground, and I'll tell them or ask them, let me guess, you're 55 or 53.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Within 1 or 2, 3 years, that's a fact. And that's the way it is. So things began happening to you sometime in your life, and we're the same age. So did different things start happening when you were a child or later in life?
Oh, they happened all the time. It was when I turned 43, I realized it wasn't normal.
Because if you're young enough, it's just part of life, right?
Yeah, it was just part of life. And I just thought everybody was like that. It was almost as if, like, when I was in first grade, I was only like 4 years old, and I remember watching Little House on the Prairie, and somebody died in the show. And I was like, oh shit, oh my gosh. Who did this? Who would make something to die, And I realized that people die, and it was the same. What happened to me at 43, it was the same as that. when I learned that people die, and that my fate and my parents' fate, and, everything at the age of 4, it's pretty incredible to learn that, and anyway.
Isn't it strange that
something
isn't it strange that something so natural seems so unnatural? I mean, it doesn't seem, it just doesn't seem right. And
right.
If anybody who's seen a person who is deceased, a dead person, a dead body, knows that. A lot of people work with that and work within it and get used to it, but I don't know if I could do that. It just doesn't seem natural to me.
Yeah, and that's part of when I was, really young and I saw that episode, I was like, kind of feeling like they didn't get it right, because I don't really believe that people die like we think, and that everything in Hollywood portrays it, and everybody believes that, we've made death out to be such, so full of grief and sorrow. And I always say to people when they lose somebody, it's like, we're the ones that are dying, like we're dying here. That's how I feel.
Right.
And it is because I have witnessed someone pass, and that was I had an interesting experience when that happened, and it just solidified my belief in, that there's something bigger that we're not fully understanding, about death. So,
well, I think too, in my opinion, that the reason it doesn't seem natural is because I don't think that for the most part we really believe we're going to die, or anybody else dies. I mean, we just, there's what comes next, what's next, there's this, they die, they pass, there's this hesitation, there's got to be something next, and you're kind of waiting for it. And some people have experienced things like that, and some people have felt a connection. And, I've been in that position where I did not feel that connection. I'm still waiting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Still waiting for
that after death connection. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I don't know if there's any way else to put it. I mean, you don't get that closure maybe.
Okay.
I mean, time obviously is one way of achieving closure, but other ways, people feel a message, hear a message, and or maybe later there's that, and I've never experienced that part. And I know a lot of people have. Yeah,
that's what I just grew up with, and I thought everybody experienced it like that. And I have so many stories of talking to the deceased, and it will happen when I go to the grocery store. If I don't, I've learned to, I kind of tune them out. I can, what I call zip myself up. I imagine I'm in a sleeping bag. And so I can kind of protect myself from them, kind of tell them like I'm not on duty, but I was like that ever since I was little.
So when was the first moment that you realized that this was going to be a lifelong experience that you're going to carry with you?
When I was 43, I was teaching, and actually, no, I wasn't teaching yet. I was working with an entrepreneurial company, a startup company, and I got the shingles. It's just like, I never had chickenpox really as a kid. Well, I had like 10 of them once, a really mild case. And I got shingles. I think I caught chickenpox from somebody, I don't know, but I caught shingles and I was pretty sick with them. And my boss, who I was working with the entrepreneurial company, she said, I got a book. It's a really good book, but it's very hard to read. And I'll give it to you because you got some time on your hands. I think you'll like it. And it was, the title of it was Extraordinary Knowing. And it's a very academic book, I think, for me. It was, she even had it, highlighted parts all throughout the book. And it was a difficult read to get through. But in the book, the psychologist is interviewing people that have extraordinary knowing, clear seeing, and just unbelievable abilities that don't seem real, don't seem human. And I was reading this book and I was just going, wait a minute, this is news? Like, why did she give me this book? It's just like, it was boring to me. And I was just thinking, I was not boring, but, like, wow, I could spend time reading something else, a suspense novel or something. And anyway, I thought, wait a minute, if this is a psychologist who's written this book, and my boss, that I was working with, she really thought it was something to give it to me, what is it? Like, maybe this is big news, And my husband was watching TV at the time, and I said, can you pause it a second? I said, can you tell me, can you hear people think? Can you hear their thoughts? And he said, that was just one of the abilities in this book. And my husband said, no, I can't hear people's thoughts. I can't hear people think. And I just burst out in tears. And because that was me, and then I went and I asked him all the other things that I was reading about in this book, and my husband's like, no, I don't hear that. I don't see that. I can't, and I thought everybody had these abilities. I thought everybody had these, that they could hear people that have passed and they could hear thoughts. I hear chatter. I hear constant chatter. It's almost like a vacuum is how I describe it. If somebody was vacuuming in the other room, that's how you hear it. And then if I tune in, I can hear words. I can actually tune in and get it. So it was mind blowing to me. I had lived 43 years thinking that everybody had these, that everybody had like precognitive abilities, and yeah.
And it never even occurred to you to ask until then, right?
Never occurred to me. Never.
That's interesting.
Never occurred. I didn't, say I was in my own little world. It never occurred to me. Things were, but then when I look back and everything flashed before my eyes then, and I was like, oh, well, this happened because of that, and this happened then, and then everything fit together like a puzzle when I realized that, because I had a lot of dead-end jobs. I had relationships that didn't work out, and things, just it was troubling, and so that when that happened, I just realized that's the reason,
So then what did you attribute, that kind of lifestyle and those life problems? Was this causing you a problem, this ability causing you problems, or
yeah.
How? Oh, really? So explain that.
Yeah. I thought, well, I'm the youngest of four. I put a lot in that, being the youngest child kind of thing, that, well, maybe I was, just being the youngest, naive or something, or not wanting to disappoint my parents, going to a good school and doing, just trying to be kind of textbook when inside it wasn't, so I was portraying this person that everybody wanted me and thought that I was, but inside I was quieting everything, So when I was a child and my dad would tell me to do something, I would hear what he was thinking. I knew what he was going to ask me before he even asked me, but I would, wait. I would hold myself back, right? When my dad took my sister skiing once, I knew to stay home with my mother. So, because I knew she was going to need me, I saw something in the future, and I would act on those things, but I wouldn't tell anybody. I wouldn't say, hey, Dad, I'm not going to go skiing this time. I'm going to wait with Mom because this is what's going to happen in a couple hours. I mean, you just don't, as a kid, so I held everything, just stuffed it down, and just tried to live as normal as I could. Like everybody else.
Yeah. And
try to be like everybody else.
What did normal look like? What was normal to you?
Just going along with what everybody else was doing, taking social cues, So, just going along with everybody else, just not sticking out, not standing out, just trying to blend in and being go along with the crowd kind of,
Sure.
when I could.
Did you ever feel like any of your friends growing up or later in life had the same ability that you did? Did they ever mention that? Or did you have any common ground with anybody? Yeah, really. So explain that.
I gravitated always to older people. Nobody in my class, really. I had one friend who was younger than me and a cousin who was a year younger. And always older. I met one of my closest friends. His name is Rock. He's older than me. He had graduated from high school, and I would have to walk home from high school, and I would think, oh, I don't want to walk home. I wish Rock was here, and he would turn the corner like that, and he would be working, but he would take a break and come and get me because he knew that I needed him. He knew I needed a ride home. So he would appear like out of thin air to take me home. And I would be at a party where I felt like it was, dangerous for me to be there. I shouldn't be there. My parents wouldn't like me to be there. And I would be thinking these thoughts, and all of a sudden, weaving through the crowd of people, there's Rock. Come on, we got to go. And he'd take me home.
Wow.
And he and I had this telepathic communication. And that's the other thing. When I was 43, I realized that was the reason why I didn't talk until I was 5, after I was 5 years old. And my parents weren't worried about me. It's in the late 60s, early 70s. Nobody, autism wasn't really talked about back then with my parents. And I started school at 4, not talking, didn't talk in kindergarten. I started first grade. I was still 4, still not talking. About halfway through first grade, I started talking. But in looking back, I was communicating telepathically. I was telling people to do things. I was manipulating my environment. So I think when you ask the question of, how was I fitting in, I would manipulate the environment, or I would just blend in.
Explain how you would manipulate, though. I don't understand that. I don't get that part.
I know. And some people...
Is it hard?
No, it's just telepathy. Like I could tell you tomorrow to call me at 2, and you'll probably call me at 2. I mean, I can think about it and I concentrate on it. And if I have a connection with a person, it happens. It's just like how Rock would pick me up in high school in the middle of the week, or in the one day out of the month that I needed a ride home. If I would think about him, and he would appear right when I needed him. And he still does that to this day. He lives in Texas, and I live here in Michigan, and he's still, I'll think about him, boom, I'll get a text from him.
So you're highly suggestive in a way.
Yeah.
That's sort of unexplainable.
Yeah, but I used that. I used it when I was little to push things in my favor, because when you don't talk, little kids, I was getting walked all over, So I remember, just manipulating situations by thinking things.
So to me, I'm thinking out there that people may think that's not fair. Maybe you have an advantage, but since that was already built in as a child, there's got to be some sort of practical application that emerged with you when you became of this earth and became part of you. So do you feel that that's a natural part of being alive and it's okay to use that?
Oh, I think most definitely. Yeah. And I use it to this day as a graphic designer. I'll know instinctively, my first idea is always my best idea and that the client is going to like it. So I guess that is a form. Maybe I'm suggesting an idea and I know that they're going to like it, it just always works out that way, even on projects where I try, I think, well, I can't, this is, I'm not going to give them the one idea. I'll give them three. It's always the first one that I did. That's the best.
Right.
So I guess, did I answer your question on that?
Yeah. In your, you had a new book that just came out, right?
Yes.
So that's amazing. Thanks for being with me. And we get to celebrate your new book together. In your book,
yeah.
You use the term unwitting, clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, and claircognizant. Describe each one of those for us, please.
I'm not, here's where I'm not the greatest. That's why I use the word unwitting in that.
Right.
I probably could go back and learn about all of the terminology with mediumship and precognitive abilities.
Because let me just preface this, because you're not that. You're not a medium. You're you, and you just possess these things naturally, and it is fairly new.
Yes, and people, when they meet me and if I feel comfortable that I tell them about myself, and that's what me even publishing this book, I actually haven't even told my mom about it yet. Just me embracing myself, it's almost like me coming out to the world. It's a huge thing. And it's very difficult to do because I've lived with it so long, and I've hidden it so long, it just kind of makes me a little choked up, just because it's been hard to just be myself. Because, people aren't used to these abilities, and I come from a Catholic family, and it's not something that is, like, oh, you're going to jump up and down and embrace, everybody, it's different. And some people don't believe that it is real. And, but yeah, so the clairvoyant, I get premonitions, I can see things, I can see events before they happen. The clairaudient is that I hear them, so I can hear things. Like, for instance, I was taking a walk with my husband one day and our Newfoundland dog, and it was a nice day, and I'm just walking along, and I forgot to zip myself up, and all of a sudden, a man by the name of Keith came to me and said just the name Keith, and I heard it. And then I heard he'll be in your husband's office on Monday. He needs to speak to him. So I was like, okay, well. So I asked my husband, I said, do you know a Keith at work? And he said, yeah, I know two of them. And I said, well, I just got a message. One of them's going to come and speak to you, in your office. Somebody has to tell you something. And so that was like on a Friday or Saturday. Monday, my husband came home from work, set his lunchbox down. He's like, you're never going to believe this. He's like, well, actually, probably will. But he's like, when you told me about Keith, I thought it was a Keith that was working in our our company, but it was actually Keith that retired, that left because I guess he was sick at the time. But anyway, that Keith, my husband thought it wasn't going to be him, came back on Monday to see my husband. Out of all the people in the company, came back to see my husband and tell my husband that he was dying of leukemia.
And was that true? Your husband was dying?
No, Keith was
Keith
dying
was.
of,
Told your husband. I got
yeah.
you. Okay, wow.
Yeah, sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, Keith wanted to come back, and he wanted to tell Joe. He said out of all the people that he wanted to talk to, he wanted to tell my husband. And my husband wasn't prepared for it because he thought it was the other Keith
Right.
that he worked with. And he was really close to this person, and he just felt he felt his pain. And, but yeah, so how does that happen? How do I hear that? And how do I know that before an event that even is going to happen? It could have been 100 different names. Why Keith?
Yeah. That's a huge question. How do you know? I mean, we may never know.
How do I know?
We just know.
Right.
Yeah. Is it unsettling sometimes when you know too much? I mean, I don't think I would want to know that much.
Sometimes it is because, what are you going to do with it? I had an instance when I wrote about it in my book, Clairvoyage. A grandfather came to me and he laid out this whole thing that was going to happen. And he told me, he was very insistent on who did this crime, and he's like, listen, the police are going to say this, but it's not true. It's not true. And this is what happened. This is what happened. And sure enough, days later, after he visits me in my sleep, this comes out in the news, and it's exactly the way he said it was going to play out. And I had shared it with my husband, and my husband's like, well, what do you want to do? What should we do? And I mean, what are you going to do? Am I going to call the police and tell them, hey, this grandfather came to me and said that there's going to be a murder and this is what's going to happen and you guys are going to do this, but it's not right. And I mean, so a lot of times you just get I get messages, and yeah, what do you do with them? And, I'll see devastating things, that I wake up and crying in tears. And, I think, oh, geez, I'm just bracing myself. And then I see it in the news, and it's exactly word for word, picture for picture. Everything is the same as what I saw. It could be a day, it could be 2 weeks before it happens. I'll see it. So, or I'll feel it. And that's that clairsentient. I'll just feel it, or I'll hear it, I'll feel it, I'll see it. I can even smell, so I can smell. It's just something isn't right, or somebody is sick, or it's just I thought everybody was like this, and so I've lived my whole life like this, and I guess maybe some people are. But maybe they just haven't really tuned into it. Maybe that's what happened when I was young and I wasn't speaking. Maybe I was like fine-tuning all these gifts. I didn't even, subconsciously, I wasn't aware of it, Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. I've often just thought, why me? Because I really don't see it as a gift so much. I haven't. I've seen it more as more of a just like, oh, why me,
Yeah. So you're right about 10 years of awareness of this now. How have you treated it differently now that you're aware? I mean, is it 10 years ago, how was it different than it is now?
I'm embracing it more. My husband, he's encouraged me to like to use a diary, you know, journal it. So when anything comes to me, I write it down. I draw pictures of the things that I see. So I sketch them out. I'm embracing it more, and I'm just allowing myself to be me. You know, I'm not, if somebody doesn't want to be my friend because of this, because I hear things, because I see things, or I can get a sense of something before it happens, then they're probably not the greatest person for me, you know? So I just think I grew a bit more confidence in who I am, but still I'm working on that yet too. I'm not going to wear it on my sleeve and hang a sign out of my door that says psychic readings, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a way to go, I guess. It wouldn't be my first choice to engage with other people and have them use me that way, but
I'm not interested in that.
Right. Some people have made it their mission to follow that path, but you know, there's got to be an underlying purpose. You know, why do we have this? Why do we experience it? Why do some people not experience it?
Yeah, I don't know. And I have a friend that says that, questions whether I was abducted by aliens, and that's where I have my abilities. And I'm not going to discount that. I don't know. A lot of strange things happened when I was young, that in time that I can't account for. So those types of things did happen. And I'm beginning to work through some things, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know why me, you know. I've asked my mom, did my grandma have abilities? I know that she used to read tea leaves way back when, you know, in teacups. But that was it. And my mom doesn't have any abilities. My dad didn't have any. So it's not something that, you know, you're born with, or that I was born with, that, you know, carried down the line. Right. So, yeah,
Is there a particular person that you communicate regularly with that isn't in a living body at the moment, or is no longer in a living body? A dead person.
Well, a dead person.
See, I don't even like to say that, but yeah.
Yeah, right. A deceased. Yeah, the other night I had a dream which was quite interesting, where I saw probably a dozen of my guides who presented themselves to me. And they were presented in boxes stacked on top of one another. And one was a Native American who I hadn't seen before. And so that was interesting. They all were there, and they came to me the day before my book was published, actually, which I thought was interesting, because I look back, I didn't plan on publishing that book that day, the next day, you know. So it was interesting. I had, it was kind of I thought that you could plan a date on the calendar on Amazon, and you could put it in and say, publish it on this date.
Right.
But it actually published the day that the editor submitted it. And so that when I look back, I thought, oh my goodness, the guides were coming either to congratulate me for basically coming out with my abilities, or just there to support me. But it was interesting. But yeah, I think I have a great aunt that will come to me, that's came to me twice. And I wrote about one of the times, actually both of the times are in my book. One of them, actually, my husband was with me, and he heard, which was incredible. And wow. I don't know if you've ever heard of a direct voice.
No.
That concept. Well, we were gardening. I'll tell you the story. We were gardening and we were planting raspberry bushes. And when I was young, we would go up north to Ludington to my aunt and uncle, my great aunt and uncle, Florence and Cecil, on their farm. And my grandma, her sister, lived nearby. So we'd visit both of them for the weekend. And my sisters and I would raid Florence and Cecil's raspberry bushes. So Florence passed away, I think it was in the 1986, or no, 87. And this was in 2013 that this happened. My husband and I, so we're planting raspberry bushes, 2013, beautiful day, real quiet outside. We're both kneeling down, not just enjoying the weather, not talking. And all of a sudden I hear, "Oh, Steffi, I love you." I heard it as clear as day.
Wow.
And I look at my husband, he looks at me, and he looks like he's seen a ghost, or heard a ghost. And he shot up and he ran out of our gate and he ran down our driveway and he came back and he's holding his hands up like, what the heck happened? What was this? And he said, "Did you hear that?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "What did you hear?" Because I always did that with people for confirmation for myself. I never said, "Yeah, I heard this," or, I always just held back. I've always done that ever since I was little. So I said, "What did you hear?" And he repeated, "Oh, Steffi, I love you."
Wow.
And he said, I took off running because he said, "I thought it was your mom in distress."
Mm-hmm.
He said it sounded like somebody like just longing and kind of crying and weeping, like that kind of, but yet all this love, just so much love. And he heard it. And I just cried. And I said, I was like, "Joe, I said, there's two people in my life who have called me Steffi, because I don't like to be called Steffi." But it was my great aunt Florence and her sister, which is my grandma B. And two of them, out of the two, one of them had raspberries. One of them grew raspberries, and that was Florence. So that's how I mean, and it was her voice, but they were sisters, so they sounded similar, But here I had been thinking of her while I was planting the bushes. And, did my thought generate so much love that it just went through all those multiverse layers, that could have happened. And maybe it did, because my husband, who's an engineer, who, he doesn't have these abilities, he heard it. So it was just a really rare gift, and amazing that it's just the confirmation of a lifetime for me.
So otherwise, I shouldn't say otherwise, but you do hear random voices and have random experiences from people that you don't know.
Yes.
And how often, and give me a couple stories. I want to hear about that.
My daughter in high school, she was shopping for shoes for prom and needed something just, quick and easy. And we went to Payless and we were buying her shoes, and my daughter's talking to me, and all of a sudden I hear, "Could you please tell the sales clerk that's helping you that I'm her aunt?" And she just told me everything about her, and that her name was Jackie, and that she wanted me to give the sales person a message. And so things like that will come out. I'll have the names.
Hold on. What was the message?
Well, she had died of breast cancer, and she was just wanted me to tell her how much she missed her and her mother, and how much they meant to them. It's pretty much love that is always the number one thing that they talk about. Right. It will be, I'll also hear, I walked by, pushing my grocery cart by somebody who's picking out a gallon of milk the other day, and I hear, "Could you tell her, she's going to get in a car accident after this. When she leaves the store, she's going to get in an accident. And, how can I go up to her and say, hey, when you leave here, slow down, or, but I'll see an accident in the future for somebody, or somebody will come to me, or I can smell like not sickness, but I can tell when somebody is ill with something, and I usually can narrow it down as to what part of the body.
I know it'd be difficult to tell a person that they're going to be in an accident, but you could intervene. You could delay them. You could talk to them. I'm sure just about anything you would do would change the outcome. Instead of just letting them go on their own accord and finish the day like they were originally intended. But, that's crazy, because I wouldn't know what to say.
Yeah. And really, how much do you intervene? I don't know.
Right. And why are you telling me this? Why are you telling me this? It's like, who has the right to tell? I mean, living or dead, even if this is going to be a thing, who has that right? It's you're changing the future, realistically.
Yeah.
So it's almost like time travel. It's there's a paradox there.
Yeah, there is. And you for me, I just don't know. Trust is a very big thing, so I don't trust that this person wouldn't think I was, out of my mind. I mean, that's a pretty strange thing that somebody comes up and says, hey, just be careful when you leave here, I mean, if somebody did that to me, I'd kind of look around like, what's happening, but
you could steal their purse. And they could chase you around the store a while. Of course, you'd be in trouble.
Yeah, I could do that. I've never thought about that.
But right when you first, I guess it was 2 stories back, when you first started, I was just about to tell my Jackie story. And I do have this friend who's hopefully listening to this. Her name's Jackie, and she's a clairaudient. And she actually, she records a lot of EVPs and things like that. That's one of her hobbies. But she has, people actually follow her home, people that have passed, and she's had a couple of tag-alongs that have been with her for quite some time, and interacts with them on a regular basis. And to me, that, and then of course, I was speaking with this gentleman a couple of weeks ago named Gary Arnold, who kind of has a version of that himself. So to me, that just seems to take an already busy, complicated life and, adding a huge layer to it that would be really hard to manage.
Yeah, right. So it's almost like multiple personalities.
Exactly. When you were saying, when you're saying at 42 that, all of a sudden you had this awareness, was it like your whole life split in half and you became 2 people? In a way.
Yeah. I've always done, it's just not being your true self. That's what it boils down to, is just not being open about who you are, so that's what it was. Yeah. I was living almost like a double life, so being this person on the outside, not that same person on the inside,
But you got to feel that, I mean,
I was my own tag along, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
You want to, there's got to be a point where you want to open up about this and let everybody in on it. But then there's that part of you that, there are people who would have a problem with that. In different ways. There's people who don't want to deal with it because it scares them. There's people that don't believe. There's other people. And there's a million different emotions that you could feel when you hear a story like yours. So, where do you go with that? Is it frustrating?
Yeah, it is frustrating. And I think religion gets in it and really
Yes.
stirs it up, you know? So a lot of people think, where do you get this? This isn't good, you know? And that's not true, you know? So, I mean, yeah, just from my experience, I just think you can't say that just because I believe in this, I don't believe in a higher power, or, you know, I believe in something, you know, that is a lower level. I mean, that's not, it's just absurd. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there'll be some people that in my life that will not speak to me after this, after they read my book. You know, but that's their prerogative. Because this is who I am, and I'm really at my age. I just can't hide behind it any longer.
And obviously, you know, I think it's ultimately healthier to face it head on, especially when you have somebody else that you can confide with, because when it does become bigger or feel bigger than you're able to handle, it's good to have somebody. So obviously you have your husband, but is there anybody else that you've shared this with that identifies and you're able to network with now?
Well, it's interesting. I have a handful of friends, and I've when I meet people, going back to kind of who do you disclose this to, you know, when I learned of the, you know, that most people don't have these abilities at 43, I was very careful who I told, because at one point I thought, oh my gosh, I could lose my job. I could, you know, I mean, it's not normal to have what I have. And I learned that. And so I once met somebody at a coffee shop, and this is another story in my book, but I was sitting there meeting him, had never met him before, and we were talking, and all of a sudden he interrupts me, and he looks right at me, and he said, "You can hear people think, can't you?" And I mean, I just met him, Cameron. Like I didn't know him. I mean, 15 minutes. I had just met him, and this is somebody that could tell somebody else about me, and I could lose everything. You know, I just sat there, and thoughts were running through my head like, okay, you tell them you've lost your job. I was just yada yada yada. Just thoughts are going through my head, and I looked at him, and I heard myself say, "Don't tell him. Tell him no. Tell him no." And I said yes. And because I just thought, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell him the truth. I said yes. And he said, he turned back and he's like, "So you can hear the people behind me?" And I said, "Yeah, if I tune in, I can hear what they're thinking." And he's like, "That's incredible." He said, I knew it. I could see it in your eyes. And he's been the only person in my life who was a complete stranger who saw it in my eyes like that. I don't know what he saw, but, you know, he saw something. And so, yeah, I'll tell, you know, I shared with a handful of friends and my family, my daughter and my son, all through kind of growing up. They would use my abilities, like, you know, is the test going to be hard? What kind of grade am I going to get? Or, you know, a lot of times I knew that a test was going to be canceled. So I said, "Don't worry about studying. The test is going to be canceled." Sure enough, it's canceled, you know, and I get 3 direct hits like that in a row, and kids start to believe my abilities, and then their friends are calling me, asking me questions. So it's been kind of fun with my children. But when people embrace it, it's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Yeah.
So what do you anticipate with the book? What do you anticipate as a reaction? How are you promoting this? Is it, obviously you start with family and kind of move outwards. What's your strategy?
Yeah. My strategy from the beginning was to write a book that will help one person. Because I thought, I can't be alone in this. Surely there must be some parent who sees what I've written about myself growing up, sees their child or something, So if I can just help somebody get to where I was at 43, get there earlier, I just, imagine all the heartache and all the trouble that I could save somebody. And that's what my intention was, to help one person. If I can help, a million people, oh my goodness, that would be incredible. Because I always believe that I'm not alone. I think, like you said earlier, that you and I are meeting here today. I don't believe it's by chance, or I think everything is planned, and I see it really clearly that the people that I've met in my life and things that have happened in my life it's so obviously planned.
So when you're out promoting this book, obviously there's going to be a time when somebody wants some information. By that, I mean, they're going to ask you, how is my deceased mother or whatever? What do you say?
Yeah. Well, it depends if I have opened myself up to it. If I've closed myself and said, nope, I'm not open to anything, I won't get anything. So if I do open myself up, then I would just tell them. Yeah, I would give them names, and I draw. Always have a sketch pad and a paper with me, because I see things, I see pictures. So I'll draw the picture. I'll draw the scene, and that's what I have in my book too, are the drawings that I saw when this happened. So I love to draw, and yeah, I'll draw what I see, and I'll write down names, and I'd be very happy to make those connections for people. I just don't. I don't see myself hanging up a sign that says psychic readings.
Yeah, for sure.
I would just, my goal is I really want to help people, and I want to show people and that these abilities are real, and I'm not the only one that has them, obviously. And I also want to help teach people that to view death differently. I think that it's, from what I know of spirits, when they're coming to me, they're more alive than we are here. I think that's for anybody who has lost someone. I think it's comforting. It was comforting for me to hear Florence tell me how much she loved me. She's obviously still with me. She didn't die, and she's gone, and period. That's it. So that's really comforting to me, because I know that I'll see Florence again, and so I just to share my stories with somebody, and if they believe them, and they they understand them, that they'll know, feel the same thing that I feel, because it's real.
You used this term a couple of times, and you talked about opening up. What does that exactly mean, and what's the process like, and what are you feeling and sensing, and how does that progress?
When I open up, it's just being my true self. I don't have a shield in front of me. I'm not zipped up in a sleeping bag. I don't have anything. I'm open. And I guess almost like my heart is open. I feel kind of an openness in my chest, like it's just open. and I'm accepting of information.
You just let it happen then.
Yeah, it's just an energy that I just let it happen.
So are you also saying that you have the ability to turn it off at will?
Yes. Yeah. I've learned to do that. I didn't always have that ability. A close friend of mine taught me how to do that, and that saved me a lot, because it was, imagine hearing constant chatter.
Right.
If you're in a party, you're hearing all those people thinking at once. It's an overload. And that's why the title of my book, The Stories from a Highly Sensitive Life, that's what it is. It's just highly sensitive. It's just being so open, so exposed that you just pick up everything and hear everything and feel everything. And it's just oversensitive,
If you've ever had any experience or know any of the Native American oral tradition, they talk a bit about this, but in a different way. And what I'm asking is, is this something that most of us had 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, and we lost it? Because I was talking today and last night about this. And one of the things that, I brought up, there's so many distractions, and there's always distractions. And is when we're more technologically advanced, distractions just naturally follow us, and we create more distractions. And even though it's technology and we're trying to probably better care for ourselves, we're also creating more distractions. Do you think that's what's come between us and the ability to communicate like you're able to communicate?
Oh my gosh, you just nailed it. That's exactly what it is. That I couldn't have said it any better. That's exactly what it is. And that when you said, what is opening up, it's actually turning all of that off. It's not having any of that on. Okay, maybe a light, but that's it. There's very little distraction. I could be on a telephone. That's a slight distraction. I could be on a telephone. I could hear a radio in the background. I still get messages. But I do believe that people are so bombarded with that technology that we're missing out on a lot. I can feel it when our power goes out. Are you like that, where if your power goes out, all of a sudden you can feel it in the core of your body?
You're closer to something. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's just this release, and it's just this, that feels so much better. And it's like, right. Wait a minute, why does it feel better when we don't have power? What does that mean, people? Like, it's, so it's.
I had once moved into a house deep in the woods where we didn't have phone service for I think it was 16 weeks. And it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
And there was pre-cell phone, but I was loving it. And so that's what I described, and thank you for agreeing with me. But I moved a few years ago, and I was in a city, and I just felt like I lost my ability to do everything. It was just so distracting, and I couldn't even relax in my own house, and I couldn't even enjoy. It was just too much. I had to leave, because for the last, prior to that, I did live in a city, but it was, I think there's some harmonics involved there, and I lived in a city that was more of my kind of a city. And in whatever way, I don't know what that is, but I could feel the difference. But then I got out of that and into something completely different, and it was just too much, too distracting. So I think you lose a bit of yourself. And I've also brought up the fact prior and many different times that there are people who are into grounding, where they basically just take off their shoes and socks,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
have to get their feet in the dirt.
Right. Yep. Or hug a tree, or hold on to the earth. Yeah.
Right.
I think we're
good.
becoming. Yeah, it does. We are becoming artificial.
Yes.
It's just we are, and that's scary. But
share a couple more stories, like something really amazing that's more recent and then longer ago, because I just want to kind of get a bigger feel of this, something that you find very significant and maybe surprised you.
Well, boy,
I don't want you to give the book away.
More surprising. I think my daughter's abilities. She's 21, and she had a dream, and she told me about the dream, and this is in my book too, so I won't give too much of it away, but she has the same similar abilities, and her dream came true, and my husband and I lived it with her. She told me of the dream the day before everything happened. That was really incredible, because I was in the story that she had told me the day before. We were the actors in it, and so it was just like, oh my gosh, everything is happening just like she said it was gonna, and everybody's saying the things just that like she said they were gonna say. That was pretty incredible. I've had other experiences, more haunting experiences, that haven't been good, that haven't been, very great. And those are also in my book. A few that are very chilling. And I'm still grappling with why they happened to us, So, but boy, I mean, it's just it's a daily, messages are coming in on a daily basis. It's just nonstop.
Do you, any idea why you'd think that there would, I mean, obviously, you've had some moments where you've had or felt like you had to warn somebody, and there are these unnerving times that make you feel unsure, and you have all these emotions going on, and obviously that's a distraction too, amongst a world that's already distracting. But any insight in how people that are able to cope with this and live with this in a balanced way? I mean, do this every day. I mean, are you getting better at it? That's an easier question.
Getting better at just embracing my gifts.
Being better at that other part of you. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that I am. Yeah. I feel that once I've embraced it, and I also have given it direction with intention of, hey, I'm going to write this book. I'm hoping to help one person that's like me, to say it's okay to be like you, and there are people like you. You're not crazy. You're not losing your mind. And hopefully we can use what we have to help others, to do remote viewing for somebody who's lost something, or somebody who's lost a deceased relative, to know that they're still with them, and to communicate a message, back and forth from spirit. I think is a wonderful thing. And I hope that more people will embrace that and understand it, and not think we're losing our minds because it happens. But for me, it happens so much, so often. And when I meet people that have the same thing, it's just like meeting a long lost brother or sister. It's just incredible to meet somebody who has gone through and goes through what I go through. It's wonderful.
I believe it. And, I think the amazing thing about you is the fact that, it took you so long to realize that this was something that,
Yes.
everybody doesn't experience that. And we don't hear this very often, not from somebody who's in their 50s that may have been going through this now for 10 years and still is trying to get a grip. I mean, that's very unusual. Right. And, it's a good comparison and contrast to everybody out there who's been experienced and have done it so long and has known about it.
Right. Yeah. And to the people that want to go to school or take classes and learn about how to hone their skills, that's interesting to me, too, that I love that they're embracing it, but and I hope that they can maybe help the whole world understand, and that I don't know, that there could be a system or an organization that accepts what we see, and where can you, for instance, when it happened, that devastation in the Philippines, the typhoon that happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, a day before that happened, I saw it, and it's in my book, and I show you the sketch and I show the photo that happened. But I saw the typhoon happening. I couldn't locate, I couldn't say the Philippines, but I saw palm trees. I saw all of the devastation. Next day on the news, I saw exactly the picture that was posted on the news was exactly what I was shown in my vision of what was going to happen. But if there was some warehouse in the world that you could go and type up what was, what you saw or something, and that it would be really put to good use, to say, hey, wait a minute, Stephanie in Michigan saw this, and maybe we should look into this or this so we could, help change what's going to happen. I don't know if that, do you follow me?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Some kind of, if there could be some resource or organization that would take all of these precognitive visions and clear seeing and, put them to use. And it's just this past year, I actually spoke with a FBI agent about something that I had seen that came to me in a dream. And I wouldn't have gone that far had I not been given, I was actually given names, and I was given a name of a lake and a name of a city and very descriptive, names. And I wrote them down. And the next morning I looked at the paper and I showed my daughter. And of course, in her 20s, she's Googling it right away. And she's like, Mom, this lake and this city exist. And this cottage that you saw exists. Everything that I described to her was right there in Google, on Google Earth. I could see it. So, with that type of information that was given to me, I had to do something with it. But you make the call, and then you never know if it helped, or nobody ever calls you back. It's they can't, I guess, but it's not a very, not that you want. I guess just to know that they followed through on the tip would be nice,
Right.
But you don't get that. But yeah. So it's for me, it isn't something that I would That's why I call in my book, I say unwitting, because it's not something that I would elect to go and, enroll in a course on. I'd rather learn basket weaving, actually, or
Right.
caning a chair or something. But
I would agree.
It's just been different. But I guess I could give you more examples, more things that have happened.
Give me one more example, and then just give me also a minute of taking me a walk, what we're going to find in the book and where to get the book.
Okay. Well, I talked about my great aunt Florence, and I shared the raspberry story with you and the direct voice that came to me. And I told you too about my daughter. Well, we, in an effort to kind of tune out technology and everything, my husband and I got rid of our TV. And when our kids were growing up, and one morning, my daughter and I were in our living room, and we were sitting down on the floor and at our coffee table, and we were eating cereal, and we heard a voice in our living room. And she and I both heard it, and she ran out of the living room super fast, and I ran to look where I heard it. I thought somebody was outside. I was ready to see somebody. It was really early in the morning, so it still was dark outside. Having those things happen on such a regular basis, all through from 0 to 43, and just living with that, and having somebody there witnessing it, like my daughter that day, and hearing it as well, is such a gift. But that was one of the other direct voices that I've heard. I've heard several, and I've never been alone when I've heard them. So that's been really nice. So I don't think if I had just been alone planting those raspberry bushes and I heard my Aunt Florence, or I'd just been alone in my living room and I heard that voice, it isn't easy to live with that. You question, did I hear it? What did I hear? Why did I hear it? Who's it coming from? But when somebody else hears it, it's really incredible. So I wrote about that story in my book, so I won't give it all away, but it's been a really fun journey from 43 till now, those 10 years, like you said, just figuring it out and understanding it and being able to live with it, turn it on and turn it off, and also help people. I do, when I get a message now, I will try to my best of my ability. I'll call the right person that I think could take this information and use it to help someone, or I try to if there's a way, I'll try to tell them. I'll try to communicate a message.
Very nice.
Even if I don't know them, but.
So the book, what's in the book? Where do people find the book? And you also have a website. Yeah,
I have a website. It's StephanieMilanowski.com. So you might want to spell that for people. So it's StephanieMilanowski.com.
It'll be in the podcast notes. So you can click right on it.
Okay, super. It's the title of the book is Clairvoyage: Stories from a Highly Sensitive Life. And it's available on Amazon, and it's also on Kindle. It's an ebook, and I'm also working on getting it into Audible. So
can I be the one who reads it?
Yes,
I'll do it for free.
Do you really?
How long is it going to take? Can you imagine?
5.7 hours, according to Audible. So.
Is it? Yeah. Cam goes, lays down at night with a book, and I'm out in about 4 minutes. So Who knows? I would give it a shot.
Oh, that would be incredible. I would.
You have a
absolutely love
really
it.
good voice.
You have a
though.
deal.
You have a really good voice for that, though. You know that.
Oh, thank you.
You could do that. It would. I think it would be tough, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I have the equipment for that. That would be the only.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, Stephen King. There's versions of his book. I don't mean to like go off on a side note here, but and he's actually there's a couple books that he's done first himself. Terrible, but he did it, and you know that was quite a while ago. So yeah, if you have a decent voice, that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
And you
well,
have,
I just
you have
love
better
that
than
idea.
a decent. Yeah, it's cool. I love the idea of audiobooks because they're so
Love
nice,
them.
you know, and you don't have to do it all at one time, I'm sure.
It's great. And if anybody, I love to answer emails. So just email me with any questions and
get the book.
I would,
It's brand new. It's brand new.
and get the book.
Yeah.
Yes. And I designed the cover too. The cover, there's something about the thimbles. That's a connection to my great Aunt Florence. She used to play a game called Hide the Thimble, and we would have to we'd find the thimble. So there's a little nod to Florence on the cover there.
Again, find Stephanie. Her link to her website is in the bottom right at the podcast notes, so check her out. And again, the book is available right now as of almost 10 days now on Amazon.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Cameron.
You can find my website at www.myalienlifepodcast.com, and please subscribe to my latest downloads at iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and at podbean.com. And please follow me and like me on Facebook and Twitter. My Alien Life is written and produced for broadcast at Studio 254 in the Northern Rocky Mountains. The music you are hearing is produced and created by Elion. You can find all Elion's work online at Heart Dance Records.